The National Bureau of Economic Research has found that your 40s are the most unhappy decade of your life. And it's not hard to understand why. Cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone, is silently working against you in ways nobody warned about. You sleep but don't recover. You gain weight doing the same things that kept you lean before. Your mind feels slower. Your energy is gone before noon. We're in a stress epidemic, and the brutal irony is that the harder you try to fix it, the worse it gets. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what's happening beneath it all and the real way to clear cortisol at the root cause so you can get back to feeling like yourself again. And younger than ever before. As you age, cortisol starts working against your body in ways most people don't realize. Cortisol is your stress hormone. When a stressful event happens, your brain tells your body to release cortisol. And in a healthy system, once the stressor is gone, there's a natural off switch. Cortisol production slows and your body returns to a state of balance. But the problem is, over time, your body's ability to regulate cortisol gets weaker. Think of it like a thermostat in a house that's been running nonstop for years. It wears out. Your cortisol receptors, the part of your system responsible for shutting off the flood of cortisol, start to lose sensitivity. Basically, they stop responding the way they should. But it's not because of age alone. It's because your cortisol has stayed elevated for way often too long. It's very similar to insulin resistance. When your insulin levels stay high for too long, what happens in your cells, insulin receptors start to lose sensitivity. As a result, your body pumps out more insulin to overcompensate, and then the problem spirals. Cortisol resistance works the same way. Your body keeps pumping out cortisol because the receptors aren't listening anymore. And because the signal to turn it off never really gets through, your cortisol stays on. What makes matters worse is modern life has us in what's called an anticipatory stress mode, which never turns the stress signal off, and thus our cortisol production never slows down. Anticipatory stress is when you wake up and immediately your brain is scanning for problems. What's waiting for you today? What didn't you get done yesterday? What might go wrong tomorrow? This is what's known as feeling always on. Even when you're physically safe, there's no clear threat, your nervous system acts like the house is on fire, and it keeps that cortisol dial turned up. Your body gets trapped in what feels like a never-ending stress response. This is when you start to feel it in every corner of your life. You might sleep for 8 hours or 9 hours and still wake up groggy. That's because cortisol blocks deep sleep, the kind of sleep your brain and body actually need to recover. You notice weight piling on, especially in your midsection. This is because cortisol tells your body to store fat around your organs. To your body, it's a survival strategy, building an emergency fuel reserve for a crisis that never ends. You might notice brain fog, forgetting why you walked into a room, struggling to keep up in conversations, even blanking on words you know you should remember. That's because cortisol actually shrinks the hippocampus, the part of your brain responsible for memory and focus. Even getting up from bed or out of a chair can feel like a task. Cortisol literally eats away at your muscle tissue, turning it into sugar for quick energy and those fight or flight moments your system thinks you're in. This is when you start to feel your health deteriorating, and the ways you try to fix it usually backfires on you. You hit the gym harder, thinking more exercise will fix it. But when cortisol is already out of control, adding more stress just pushes it higher. Fasting brings the same issue. In a well-regulated body, fasting can be great for reducing inflammation, improving metabolic health, and resetting your system. But when cortisol is already maxed out, fasting just adds one more stress trigger. None of these things are bad on their own, and in a healthy system, your body can handle the cortisol spikes that come with exercise or fasting. In fact, those temporary stressors can actually make you stronger. When your body's in a constant state of cortisol overdrive, these fixes only add fuel to the fire. And that's why chronic cortisol becomes the root cause of why you feel stuck, exhausted, foggy, and like your health is crumbling year after year. So if your body has lost the ability to hear the off switch, how do you clear the cortisol stuck in your system? Most people think it's as simple as just relaxing. If you've been wired for stress for years, your brain doesn't know how to relax. The truth is, clearing cortisol is a biological process from something called safety signaling. Your nervous system works like a two-way street. One side, there's a sympathetic nervous system, your accelerator. That's what pumps out cortisol. On the other side, you have the parasympathetic nervous system, the brakes. That's what clears the cortisol. You can't just tell your brain to hit the brakes. You have to prove that it's safe enough to slow down. Part of your brain controlling this process, the part scanning for danger, needs to believe the threat is over. In nature, animals have this built-in system. When they escape a predator, they shake it off and their bodies reset. But in modern life, we never get that all clear signal. We go from stressful meetings to stressful commutes, to intense workouts, and then to jumping back into work emails. The accelerator stays glued to the floor and your brain and body never actually recover. Without that shift from threat to safety, The cortisol just keeps circulating, breaking down your muscle, fogging your brain, and storing fat your body thinks it's still in crisis mode. To fix this, you don't need more stress management tips or another technique to calm down. What you need is to reset your nervous system. This is about retraining your brain to recognize what safe feels like so it knows how to release the brakes again. The way you do this is through what is known as the gold standard to bringing your brain back to baseline, neurofeedback. It's one of the most precise, measurable, data-driven tools available for nervous system regulation. And it works in a way that no supplement, no protocol, and no amount of willpower ever could. It's a form of biofeedback, which means it starts by listening to your brain, to your nervous system, to the signals your body is already producing. Sensors read your brainwave activity in real time, and then the system feeds that information back in to you in the form of subtle audio or visual cues. You're not doing or forcing anything. Your brain receives the feedback and begins to self-correct. Because cortisol doesn't live in your conscious mind, it doesn't respond to your to-do list. It lives in the deeper, older, automatic parts of your brain that are constantly scanning for threats beneath the surface. You can't think your way into those systems, but neurofeedback therapy can get you there. Because it's not asking your conscious mind to do anything. It's communicating directly with the system underneath and giving your nervous system the precise cues it needs to recognize that it's safe. And when your nervous system finally believes it's safe, cortisol levels drop. The best thing is you can track and measure your progress. Every neurofeedback session gives you enough data in the form of brainwave patterns so you can see what's actually happening inside. You can see your nervous system shifting from a state of chronic activation towards the calm patterns associated with genuine recovery. But you cannot just take one session and wait for it to fix everything. You need a complete system that's customized to your personalized health goals so you can identify which brainwave patterns are causing the problem and what you can do to fix those. This is where Vibe Wellness's Brain Bloom program comes in. It's not a one-size-fits-all plan. Before we do anything, we map your brain using a process called a QEEG, which is a quantitative electroencephalogram. We capture a complete picture of your brainwave activity. We can see exactly which patterns are dominant, which area of your brains are overactive, which are underactive, and where the dysregulation is actually living. Because two people can have high cortisol and look completely different on a brain map. One person might be stuck in constant high alert patterns, while others might show signs of a brain that's actually exhausted underneath all that stress. Once we have your brain map, we build your neurofeedback protocol around it. Every session is targeted specifically to your patterns. We're training your brain to move out of the exact dysregulated state your map revealed and toward the calm, regulated, resilient baseline you're looking for. And then we address what's happening below the neck. You could train your brain all day, but if your nutrition is still sending cortisol spiking signals to your body, you're fighting yourself. We look at what you're eating, where you're eating, and how your current nutritional habits are either supporting or sabotaging your hormonal environment. We identify the specific gaps, whether that's blood sugar instability, mineral deficiencies, inflammatory foods, or chronic underfueling, and we build targeted adjustments into your plan. If you're a person who has spent decades overriding your body's signals in pursuit of performance, this is your chance to move out of the traditional approaches and try something that actually works at the root cause. Because your body does not demand intense workouts, it does not demand willpower 18-hour fasts. All it needs from you is to show up. And if you're ready to show up, the link is in the description below.